My name is Cecilia Berkeley, and at 63, I thought I knew what betrayal looked like. I was wrong. The attorney's words still echoed in my mind as I stood outside the family home I'd lived in for 35 years. The penthouse in California goes to Trevor. The mountain cabin goes to you. When I called my son to discuss this shocking inheritance division, his response shattered what remained of my heart. A cabin? Trevor's voice dripped with contempt. Perfect. Dad finally figured out what you're actually worth. Trevor, surely there's been some mistake. The only mistake was Dad taking this long to realize what a useless old lady you've become. You've done nothing but look pretty for 40 years. At least now the inheritance reflects your actual contribution. The cruelty in his voice was breathtaking. How can you speak to me this way? Because it's true. The penthouse is for successful people. The cabin is where worthless things go to rot. 3 days later, Trevor arrived with movers and an eviction notice. I watched strangers pack my life into boxes while my son supervised with cold efficiency. The cabin's 3 hours north, he said, handing me keys without eye contact. Don't expect visits. As I drove through winding mountain roads toward my inheritance, I felt something shifting inside me. The hurt was being consumed by something harder, more dangerous. The cabin was worse than I'd imagined. Sagging roof, broken windows, rotting wood. But as I pushed open the front door, I froze. The interior was immaculate. Modern furniture, working electricity, a fully stocked kitchen. This wasn't abandoned property. This was a functioning safe house. In the back office, I found a locked desk. Using a letter opener, I picked the lock and discovered something that changed everything, a hidden compartment containing stacks of cash and a leather journal in my husband's handwriting. The first entry made my blood run cold. Cecilia suspects nothing. She's beautiful but useless for anything beyond social appearances. The real work requires different partners. 40 years of marriage, and my husband had documented his contempt for me in meticulous detail. But more shocking were the criminal activities he'd recorded. Money laundering, bribery, fraud, an entire criminal empire built while I played the perfect wife. The final entry, dated months before his death, revealed the ultimate betrayal. Trevor gets everything that matters. Cecilia gets the cabin, more than she deserves for 40 years of being decorative. I sat in that cabin office, surrounded by evidence of decades of betrayal, and felt something crystallize inside me. They had both made the same fatal mistake, confusing decorative with powerless. If they wanted to see what a useless old lady could accomplish, I was about to give them a masterclass. If you've ever been told you're too old to start over, let me tell you, that's a lie. Your story isn't over, and you still have chapters left to write. Our best-selling book, Reclaiming Your Peace After Pain, is filled with simple, powerful steps to help you heal, rebuild, and fall in love with life again. Click the link in the description box and start your new beginning today. The cabin wasn't just a safe house, it was my husband's command center. Hidden compartments contained financial records, photographs of illegal meetings, audio recordings, and enough evidence to destroy Trevor's empire. But the journal was my greatest weapon. Richard had documented everything. Trevor's involvement in money laundering operations, his expansion of criminal activities, even his plan to neutralize the mother liability by isolating me in the mountains. They hadn't just betrayed me. They conspired to eliminate me as a threat to their criminal enterprise. I spent 3 days cataloging evidence and researching Trevor's current operations. The penthouse wasn't just his home. It was headquarters for money laundering that processed millions of dirty dollars annually. Using the cabin's sophisticated communication equipment, I began reaching out to federal authorities, journalists, and Trevor's criminal partners with carefully selected evidence. My first target was Marcus Hamilton, an investigative journalist. I provided him with bank records showing bribes to city officials and photographs of Trevor meeting with known criminals. This is the biggest corruption story in decades, Marcus breathed as he examined the evidence. My second contact was FBI agent Sarah Chin. I gave her financial records proving systematic money laundering and tax evasion. This documentation could destroy an entire criminal network, Agent Chin confirmed. But my most dangerous move was contacting Vincent Torres, one of Trevor's criminal partners. I sent him proof that Trevor had been stealing from their joint operations, nearly $500,000 over 2 years. Vincent was not known for forgiveness. While federal investigations began grinding forward, I decided to visit Trevor's penthouse to assess his psychological state and gather additional intelligence. The building's security was impressive, but not impenetrable. I dressed elegantly and approached the front desk with confidence. I'm Cecilia Berkeley, Trevor's mother. I wanted to surprise him. The receptionist immediately provided access. He's mentioned you. I'll let you wait in his apartment. The penthouse was a monument to criminal excess, modern, cold, expensive. But as I explored, I noticed telling details. Multiple security cameras, a hidden panic room, cocaine residue on surfaces, prescription anxiety medications. Trevor was living like a wealthy playboy, but stress was taking its toll. When Trevor arrived home early, his shock was immediate. Mother, this is unexpected. I wanted to see your beautiful inheritance, I replied pleasantly. I could see him studying me, trying to reconcile the elegant woman before him with his image of a broken widow. You look tired, dear. All those security measures must be exhausting. Motion sensors, cameras, that panic room. Are you frightened of something specific? Trevor's hand paused as he reached for his drink. Security is standard for valuable properties. Of course. Though in my experience, people only install panic rooms when they're genuinely afraid. I've been discovering fascinating things at my cabin. So many hidden treasures, so many secrets. Your father documented his interests quite thoroughly. I watched Trevor's face change as he processed the implications. I should go, I said, moving toward the door. Thank you for the lovely visit. Oh, and Trevor? I'm finding I'm quite resourceful when properly motivated. Amazing what a woman can accomplish. I left him standing in his doorway, seeds of doubt successfully planted. Over the following weeks, I escalated my attacks from multiple angles simultaneously. The key was creating overlapping crises that would overwhelm Trevor's ability to manage them. I sent anonymous evidence to 3 women Trevor was dating, exposing his lies and criminal activities. Jessica, his lawyer girlfriend, was horrified to discover she was dating the type of criminal she prosecuted professionally. Monica, the socialite, found her reputation destroyed when evidence surfaced at her country club. Elena, the photographer whose brother died of overdose, learned Trevor was involved in money laundering for drug operations. All 3 relationships imploded within days. Meanwhile, I contacted Richard's illegitimate children, 3 families he'd supported secretly while married to me. Patricia Williams, Maria Santos, and Lisa Chin all discovered they'd been excluded from inheritance while Trevor got everything. They filed lawsuits demanding recognition as heirs. Their children went public with their stories, creating media sensation about the corrupt businessman who inherited millions while his half-siblings lived in poverty. Ashley Williams became particularly effective, using social media to expose Trevor's criminal activities to hundreds of thousands of followers. The pressure was working. Through surveillance equipment I'd found at the cabin, I listened to Trevor's increasingly desperate phone conversations. Someone is systematically destroying me, he told his business partner. They have access to Dad's private files and they're using everything against me. Any idea who? It could be federal agents, Vincent testing my loyalty, or... Trevor paused. God help me, it could even be my mother. Federal raids began at dawn, exactly as I'd orchestrated. From across the street, I watched FBI agents swarm Trevor's building while news crews captured everything. Trevor was led away in handcuffs, charged with money laundering, tax evasion, conspiracy, and racketeering. The man who'd called me useless was now being perp-walked on national television. But his legal troubles were just beginning. Vincent Torres had received my evidence about Trevor's theft and was planning permanent retaliation. Other criminal partners viewed Trevor as a liability who knew too much to be allowed to testify. The media coverage was devastating. Richard's illegitimate children gave interviews describing their anger at being abandoned while Trevor inherited stolen money. Elena Rodriguez appeared on multiple shows, discussing how she'd unknowingly dated someone involved in the drug trade that killed her brother. Public opinion was entirely against Trevor. The narrative was perfect. Wealthy criminal's son inheriting dirty money while father's other children lived in poverty. I visited Trevor in federal detention, wanting him to understand who had orchestrated his destruction. He looked broken in his orange jumpsuit, his arrogance replaced by desperate fear. "You came to gloat," he said through the bulletproof glass. "I came to ensure you understand the finality of your situation. Your empire is gone. Your inheritance is being seized. Your criminal partners want you dead. Your relationships are destroyed. You did this. You destroyed everything. I revealed everything. Your father built his empire on crimes that hurt innocent people. You inherited those crimes and expanded them. But you're my mother. I was your mother. You terminated that relationship when you called me useless and kicked me out of my home. Now I'm simply a citizen who provided evidence of crimes to authorities." Trevor leaned forward desperately. "There has to be something you want. You threw away the only thing I valued, a loving relationship with my son. Everything else you possessed was built on lies and crimes." I stood to leave. "Your father taught you that love was weakness and family was obligation. I taught you that those lessons were wrong. The woman you dismissed as useless was actually the most dangerous person in your life." Trevor was sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. The judge called his crimes a betrayal of public trust that demands maximum punishment. His inheritance was distributed among his victims and half-siblings. Ashley Williams used her portion to help children of crime victims. David Chin exposed additional corruption using his computer skills. The Santos twins organized community programs fighting organized crime. Vincent Torres was arrested in an unrelated federal sting, eliminating the immediate threat to Trevor's life, but leaving him to serve his full sentence in general population. 6 months later, I sat on the balcony of my new oceanfront home in Santa Barbara, purchased with money from the cabin sale and my legal share of seized assets. The morning paper contained a small item: former real estate developer attacked in prison. Trevor was in protective custody but alive. I felt no satisfaction about his continued suffering. That chapter was closed. My days were now filled with painting classes, book clubs, volunteer work, and Long Beach walks with my rescue dog. I was writing a memoir called Useful, A Woman's Guide to Reclaiming Power After Betrayal. Women who'd read about my story wrote letters describing their own battles against dismissal and betrayal. I corresponded with them, sharing strategies and encouragement. One letter particularly moved me. "Mrs. Berkeley, my husband left me for his secretary and claims I contributed nothing to our marriage. Reading about your refusal to accept being discarded has inspired me to fight for what I deserve. Thank you for showing me that being underestimated can be an advantage." Agent Chin called one morning. "Trevor wants to speak with you. He claims he has information about additional crimes, but will only share it if he talks to you first." Even in prison, Trevor was trying to manipulate family relationships for personal benefit. "Please tell my son that the woman who destroyed his criminal empire isn't interested in helping him reduce his sentence. If he has information that could help victims, he should share it without conditions." Should I tell him you declined? Tell him Cecilia Berkeley is busy building a life based on truth and justice, and she doesn't have time to enable continued selfishness from someone who still hasn't learned that actions have consequences. Trevor would have to find his own redemption. My role in his story was complete. 1 year after Trevor's sentencing, I received an unexpected visitor. Ashley Williams drove up from San Diego to thank me. "Mrs. Berkeley," she said as we watched the sunset, I want you to know I understand what you sacrificed. Destroying your own son couldn't have been easy. Trevor destroyed himself. I simply refused to enable his destruction of others. You chose to do what was right instead of what was easy. That took courage I'm not sure I would have had. Ashley, I spent 40 years choosing what was easy over what was right. It nearly destroyed my soul. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst instincts. Today, I'm 75 years old and living exactly the life I choose. My memoir became a bestseller. I speak at conferences about women reclaiming power after betrayal. I've helped dozens of women fight for justice in their own lives. Trevor is still in prison, where he'll remain for decades. His criminal empire is destroyed, his victims compensated, his half-siblings thriving. People sometimes ask if I regret destroying my son's life. The answer is simple. I didn't destroy Trevor's life. I revealed its true foundation built on crime and cruelty. The useless old lady proved to be the most dangerous person in his world. I learned that being underestimated isn't a weakness. It's camouflage that allows you to move freely while planning your enemy's destruction. My husband called me decorative. My son called me useless. They were both wrong. I was a weapon they never saw coming. And I was finally completely free. Have you ever been dismissed as too old, too weak, or too unimportant to matter? Have you ever been told your best years are behind you, that you should be grateful for scraps of respect? Every person who has underestimated you has given you a gift, the gift of their blindness to your true capabilities. The woman in this story discovered that 40 years of being overlooked had taught her everything about how power really works. She learned that the most dangerous person in any room is the one nobody pays attention to. Your age isn't a limitation. It's an advantage. Your experience isn't a burden, it's a weapon. Your supposed invisibility isn't a curse, it's camouflage. Our book, Reclaiming Your Peace After Pain, will teach you how to channel experience into power, turn pain into purpose, and build a life that demands the respect you've always deserved. Don't let anyone convince you that your story is over. Don't accept less than you deserve. Don't let anyone make you believe that being underestimated makes you powerless. Click the link in the description to order your copy today. Learn how to stop being a victim of other people's expectations and start being the architect of your own justice. Remember, respect isn't something you ask for. It's something you take back from people who never deserve to give or withhold it. Your revolution starts now. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps us continue sharing these powerful stories of transformation and triumph. Until next time, remember, you are stronger than you know, and you deserve better than you've been accepting.